Hey San Diego, welcome to our podcast. This is another recorded episode of Stay Classy San Diego, with video production provided by MaxLex Media at KCBQ with your host, Steve Wire. This podcast is dedicated to keeping you informed and engaged with the latest political events and trending news in the San Diego area. Join us on a weekly exploration as we sit down with prominent community members, political figures, insightful analysts, business leaders, and more. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and enjoy the show. All right, well, welcome to another episode of Stay Classy San Diego. Today I'm joined by Alyssa Spencer. Alyssa is a pro surfer. She was born in Encinitas. She's a local. She's been surfing since she was about 7 or 8 years old. And we're really excited to have her on today for a number of reasons. One is that Alyssa was recently the winner of the Super Girl Pro competition here in San Diego, which my former employer, the Coast News, covered in quite some detail. But she's also competed in the Challenger Series, and she's getting ready for the World Tour competition. And she also has some Olympic aspirations, which we're going to talk about today a bit. But first of all, Alyssa, thanks so much for coming onto the show. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Introduce yourself to the audience who doesn't know you as well.
Yeah, I am a professional surfer. I live in Encinitas, California, and I am 20 years old.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about what happened at the recent competition, the Super Girl Pro competition. So you won the competition, and talk to me a little bit about what sort of led up to that, like how you're able to be successful as you were, and like sort of just how that transpired.
Yeah, the Supergirl, I ended up winning this year, so that was pretty cool. And I've been competing in that event ever since I was 12 years old. I think is the first time that I
Wow.
competed in it.
They let you compete that young? That's crazy.
Yeah, I entered the event and didn't get in at first. I was on like the alternate list, so I sat on the beach and kind of just waited to see if there was someone that wasn't going to show up, because normally spots kind of opened up throughout the day for a few girls that end up not showing up. And I ended up getting a spot into that event when I was 12, and I've competed in it every year since then. So this was like my 7th or 8th year doing it. And I've never won it before this year, so it's always been like a really big goal of mine to win that event, just because it's such a special event for the women, and it's also just been on my list of goals to win that event for a long time. So Absolutely. It was a pretty much like dream come true for me.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about like when you finally won, when you finally sort of crossed that hurdle, like what was that like for you? I mean, you've been aiming at this for years. It's been kind of like your dream, your goal, your focus. Like, what was it like to finally climb the mountain?
Yeah, it was really cool. It definitely felt pretty good, and yeah, I've just been putting in a lot of hard work, and it felt good to see it pay off. And I also really like needed that boost of confidence at that time, because I went straight from that event into our last 2 Challenger Series events. So that was kind of like the best thing that I could have asked for, is just having that like extra boost of confidence from winning that event to go into the next 2 events that were really important for me. So that was just like the timing of all of that was really cool to how that all like played out.
Sure. Do you like tell me a little bit about like in terms of preparing for the event, like sort of what led up to that, like what was sort of key to your success this time around? Like obviously you've been surfing for much of your life, but like, what was different this time around? What, like, led to your success, in your opinion?
Yeah, I don't know, like, exactly what it was that event, but I just felt like I was super present, like, in the moment, and just not worrying too much about, like, the outcome of the event, rather just, like, having fun and surfing and just trying to surf my best. and also, of course, be competitive and use good heat strategy and all of those things. But I kind of just try to take a lot of confidence out of that I grew up surfing there. So I've surfed Oceanside my whole life and I know
Yeah.
that wave so well. So I tried to really like rely on that and just like trusting my instincts and like which ways to choose and all of that. So I feel like it was just kind of a combination of a lot of things that I've been working on over the years that kind of like came together.
Sure, absolutely. Talk about growing up in the area that you did. I mean, in Encinitas, North County. I mean, I've surfed there before. You know, it's a big surfing community. It's like sort of a big family of surfers. Like, tell me a little bit about how growing up there like shaped your approach to surfing and like kind of contributed to your success.
Yeah, growing up in Encinitas was amazing for my surfing. There's all different types of waves for like different levels of surfing. So I was able to start out at like Cardiff Reef with my dad pushing me into like little tiny waves and slowly kind of work my way up to the bigger waves that we have around. And we have so many waves like in San Diego too, like beach breaks, reef breaks, whatever, point breaks, barrels, like everything. So it's like the perfect training ground to kind of test yourself in all conditions, which I feel like has really helped me just become like a really well-rounded surfer.
Absolutely. Now, going a little further back to the beginning of the story, like, can you talk to us about like, I mean, obviously you love to surf, but like, sort of what your particular, I guess, motivation, inspiration, as it were, like sort of what inspires you to surf and not just to surf, but to surf at the level that you do. Because I mean, you know, I get out there in the water, but I don't, you know, a lot of us like don't do what you do, you know, it's like a different level. So like what sort of inspired and motivated you to eventually compete at the level that you do now?
Yeah, I just started surfing because I loved it so much and had always just so much fun in the water, and it just became like really natural to me. And then I've always been like a super competitive person, so I feel like I've always had that like competitive drive just within me for like competition and all of that. So it kind of was like a combination of those two things that made it super natural for me to want to pursue professional surfing. And I used to watch all the girls on the world tour when I was younger and just like dream of one day being where they were and just be like, wow, how cool would it be if I could surf and like do what I love and travel the world like for my job. So I just had that dream like in my heart, I guess, ever since I was a little girl, and kind of just dedicated every day to working hard and like trying to pursue that dream to make it a reality. And here I am
Here you are.
today.
And we're glad to have you. But I wanted to ask you on that note, because you talked about like, you know, sort of even when you were a girl, like just sort of looking up to, you know, other female surfers who are competing on the world tour stage. But I mean, the reality is that surfing, I mean, it's sort of evolved over time, but the reality is that surfing as a sport is still largely a male dominated sport. So talk to us a bit about like sort of how in a sort of a male dominated world, like of, you know, professional surfing, what it's like sort of being a woman in that space and sort of like asserting yourself and like moving up and competing at that level.
Yeah, definitely growing up, there wasn't a ton of like young girl surfers. There was maybe one or two other girls like from my city that I kind of grew up surfing with, but other than that, it was pretty much all guys in the water.
Sure.
Um, which definitely is like pretty hard, like just having that environment and feeling a little bit intimidated. But I feel like it really like strengthened me a lot and just like I don't know, a lot of the guys that I grew up surfing with really pushed me a lot to become, you know, the surfer that I am today. And to see how many surfing today, like you paddle out in the lineup and there's tons of young girls surfing, which is just so cool to see how much it's grown. And like the place that women surfing is in right now, I think is a great place and it's definitely growing a lot, and the girls are pushing the level of surfing just as much as the guys are. Like you see girls surfing out at pipe and all of these crazy gnarly waves and getting waves just like the guys are and like charging just as hard. So it's a really cool like transition that we're in right now where the girls are like really pushing the level of women surfing, and I feel like it's definitely growing a lot.
Do you sort of like see yourself as like sort of spearheading that transition or not really?
Yeah, I would say so. I think my generation is definitely like the forefront of that, and there obviously have been lots of women who have come before us who have been, kind of starting that for us and leading the way, leading the path. So it's really cool to kind of take what they did and, move with this generation to see like how far we can push it. And it's really exciting. Like it's super cool to just like be a part of that, and just makes me really excited for the future too.
I'm curious, like everybody has like a point in their life where you kind of you sit down and you think about, what do I want my life to look like, And for you, can you talk about the point, maybe the moment in time, or maybe it was a gradual process where you sort of decided like, this is really where I want to take my life. Like, surfing is not just a hobby to me. It's not just like a sport, but it's actually the direction I want to take my life in. Like, sort of talk me through like how you sort of reached that decision and that like sort of confirmation in your mind.
Yeah, I competing when I was really young. And I remember when I was around like 13 years old, I think, I signed up for my first pro junior event, which was my first World Surf League event that I ever did. And I remember my parents just kind of signed me up for fun. They were like, "Oh, we'll just sign her up, like see how she does." And I went into it with like no expectations. I was like, for all I know, I could end up losing first round. Like,
Yeah.
we'll just see how it goes. And I ended up winning that event. And
There you go.
I remember at that moment, I was like, "Wow, like this, like I'm actually like this is something I could see myself doing." And
Yeah,
like
I'm pretty good at this.
I feel
Yeah.
like that moment I was kind of like, I want to give it a go. Like I want to really try to pursue this. And I don't know. I feel like that's kind of the moment that really like sparked it for me, where I realized, if I work hard, like I could make this happen. So yeah, I feel like that was kind of one of the moments where I felt like that was really what I wanted to do.
Sure. Can you talk a little bit about? I mean, we already talked about your victory at the recent competition, but like sort of, um, like what really? Because I mean, obviously, like lots of surfing, but like other than the obvious, like what goes into like preparing for a professional surf competition? Like like what is your personal routine, your sort of discipline look like on sort of a daily, weekly basis? Like sort of how do you prepare for something of this magnitude?
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of work like over time that gets put in. So I'm surfing every day, at least once, maybe twice every day. I try to put lots of hours into the water. And usually I have one of my parents come to the beach and film me. So I come home and I'll do like video review and, you know, just talk over things with my dad. He's kind of like
Yeah.
a little bit of my coach. So he'll help me with like just identifying things in my surfing that I want to work on, and then we go back and review video to work on those things. And then outside of the water, there's also a lot of work that goes into it. I do a lot of training in the gym when I'm home. So I'll go into the gym like 3 or 4 times a week just to do strength and conditioning training, and then also like injury prevention, just to make sure I'm always strong and everything's healthy. And then also the mental side of things for competition, especially, is really important. So over the last year, I've been working with a mental sort of like life coach, I guess you could
Okay.
say. Um, and yeah, he helps me just so much in all areas of my life. But I feel like that's super important for me to be just competing at the highest level is just to have a really strong head and like strong mental game to go with it. So that's kind of my like little
Whoops, there we are. Okay. Yeah, so Alyssa, can you tell me a little bit about, like, other than your coach, like, sort of who and the what in terms of being instrumental to your success? Like, I mean, obviously, you put in the work, you train, but like in terms of like sort of the influences in your life, like, and like sort of what has been like the most critical like element to your success? Can you talk about like sort of who's inspired you, who's like sort of driven you along the way, and those influences?
Yeah, I grew up surfing with a lot of really talented surfers at home. And I feel like I was just surrounded by so many like hardworking and cool people. So just growing up, I've always had the support of like all my friends and family. And I feel like everyone has kind of inspired me in different ways. And then also like all the women on tour, just watching them and what they do and the work that they put in is just really inspiring to me. I don't think I could just pick one of them. They're
Sure.
all amazing. But yeah, I feel like it's definitely a lot of different people. And I have a full-time coach for the actual events that I go to. So his name is Matt Myers, and he actually used to be team manager for Rip Curl. So he
Oh
signed me
wow.
to Rip Curl when I was 11 years old, and he was my team manager for probably about 7 years, 6 or 7 years. And then he ended up stopped working for Rip Curl and transitioned into becoming a surf coach. So when he did that, I went with him as my surf coach. So he's been coaching me for the last 3 years, and he's been like a huge part of my success and just being an awesome like mentor for me in surfing and also in life. So it's really cool to have someone like that to just like draw inspiration from, and
Sure.
also just have as like a friend and a mentor to help me through this journey. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's definitely been like one of the people that I'm most inspired by.
Yeah, he's in your corner. He always has your back. No, that's awesome. Like, I mean, the fact
Yeah.
is that for him to like sign you to Rip Curl when you're 11 years old, I mean, he must have really seen something in you. Like what happened?
Yeah, I don't really like remember exactly, but I just remember like it was after US Championships, which is one of our like biggest junior events of the year.
Sure.
And when I was 11, I'm pretty sure that was my first year competing there. And I remember after that, I had like a couple different companies be like, hey, we want to give you some stuff and like just some free gear, like, just hook you up because I was only 11.
Yeah.
And Rip Curl was one of those companies, and I remember I loved the Rip Curl wetsuits. So I was like, I'm gonna go with that one because I like their wetsuits. And that was kind of how my journey with Rip Curl started. And yeah, they've been amazing. I've been with them for it's crazy, almost 10 years now. So
That's awesome.
um be incredible that they've been there like every step of the way. And yeah, they've like Matt just must have seen something in me when I was 11 years old, and it's pretty awesome. So it's cool to
Yeah.
like look back at that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I can tell you right now, when I was 11 years old, I wasn't doing shit. Like, I mean, it's like, I was just stuffing my face at Thanksgiving dinners. But I mean, you clearly like had this talent from like a very young age. And now that you're to the point you have, like, sort of what's next? Like, where do you go from here? I mean, you've won competitions, you've competed at the highest level. I mean, what does the next chapter of your life look like if you have it your way?
Hey there, San Diego. I've been using Dorado nutrition supplements for a little while now, and I can tell you they've made a huge difference in my health journey. Not only are they made in the USA with high quality ingredients, but they're also rigorously tested for purity, potency, and safety. And the results speak for themselves. With ingredients like Fidosia agrestis and Tonkat Ali, I've seen more energy, better gut health, improved T levels, muscle mass, and performance. And the best part is that you can get $5 off of your next purchase with the promo code STAYCLASSY at checkout. Trust me, if you're looking to take your health and performance to the next level, Dorado Nutrition is the way to go.
Well, now that I'm stepping into like my first year on the world tour, it's definitely going to be a new challenge. And in the last few years, the WSL has added the mid-year cut. So in order to stay on the world tour, you have to make that mid-year cut. So for this year, my goal is to be in the top 10 of the tour to make the mid-year cut. And then from there, we'll reassess a little bit. But, you know, when I make the mid-year cut, the next goal would to be in the top 5, which goes to the last event of the year, and those 5 girls have a chance to win a world title. So for the future, those are definitely my goals, and also to make it to the 2028 Olympics.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first of all, let's talk about the World Tour. So talk about how you're preparing for the World Tour, and once that gets started, what is that going to look like for you?
Yeah, so right now I'm in Hawaii, and I'm surfing and training and preparing for the first 2 events, which are going to be at Pipe and Sunset. And yeah, Hawaii is just like, it's such an amazing place. It's so like powerful and so much like raw energy, and those 2 waves are definitely a little bit daunting. They can be a little bit scary at times.
Which island are you on in Hawaii?
I'm on Oahu.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm here right now just training and preparing for those first 2 events, and the season kicks off in the end of January. So yeah, I'm just going to be trying to my best to like learn everything about these waves and really get comfortable here, and just prepare myself to be at my best for those first 2 events.
Awesome. What is the level of competition like? Like, who are you going to be competing against? Like, how many people? Like, how is it like assessed? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, so there's 18 women on tour. It's pretty small. There's very few of us. So it starts in like a non-elimination first round where there's 6 heats of 3 girls, and if you win your first heat, you move on to, I guess, like you end up passing around, and then the second and third place girls go to like an elimination round. And then from there on, the competition just keeps going to like quarters, semis, finals.
All right.
But yeah, and the level of surfing is very, very good. I mean, it's the best 18 women in the whole world.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a very high level of competition. And yeah, I'm super excited just to even, have the opportunity to surf against these girls and show them what I got.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know you're trying to be humble, but like honestly, like for somebody your age, like being in the top 18 in the world, like what does that feel like? Like when you wake up in the morning, when you would go to train, like thinking like, man, I'm like actually in that tier, like that level, like so soon in your life. Like, what is that like mentally for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like, it's pretty crazy to just think about how far I've come. And I competed on the qualifying series for the last 3 years, and every year I've been within 1 or 2 spots of qualification. So if I would have it in a perfect world, I would have been on tour a couple of years ago. But everything obviously works out for a reason, and the more I look back at that and everything that I learned from all of those years of being so close, and like as heartbreaking as it was to like have that dream right there but not quite get there so many years in a row, I grew so much. And I feel like I've never been in a better place than right now to like be fully ready for that. And those years in the past, I might not have been fully ready. And I also was so young. So to like take on the world tour at that age of being like 16, 17, or 18, like it would have been pretty a big challenge, I think, especially just, like you're pretty much still a kid.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like, I feel like this has come at the right time. And I've learned so much and I'm taking like so much knowledge that I learned from them. Like I've had a long road and a long journey here, but it is well worth it in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, and it's not like unheard of, right? I mean, like, 17, 18-year-old gymnasts have won like in the Olympics. Like it's, people your age have, I say your age, I'm not that much older than you, but, people our age have done tremendous things like in the sporting world before. I mean, Mike Tyson won the championship when he was 19. I mean, so it's not impossible. Like you're definitely, you're competing at a very high level at a young age, but tell me a little bit about like your mindset. I mean, I always ask, like, we bring on athletes on the show or successful people, and like sort of like the mindset and like the discipline that it takes to get to the level that you're at. It's different from like the average person. It's not like, the average person who, goes into their 9-to-5 job, clocks in, clocks out. Like there's a different mindset, a different mentality that it takes to get to that level of success. Like talk us through a bit, like what your mindset, your mentality looks like, your approach, not just in terms of, you surf a lot, you do all the right things, but like your actual like mental approach that allows you to, achieve the level of success you've had.
Yeah, I feel like I've definitely just learned a lot over the years of like what mindset is best for me. And this year I kind of really, I feel like unlocked like a new level for myself. And I feel like the way I did that was just to kind of separate myself and like in like, you know, if I don't win, like I'm not going to be happy, or like if I don't win, like am I like enough, or like,
Sure.
all these things. So I felt like really separating like my worth and like my value from these results has like helped me in a way where it's like, you know, all these people are still going to love me and like I'm enough without these results too. And all of this is just like a bonus.
Sure.
And like, I'm, as long as I'm putting in the hard work and doing everything to be like my best, then that's good enough. So I feel like that's just kind of like the mindset I took this year. And it was like, of course I'm going to work hard and like put all of my time and energy and dedication like into this because it's my dream, and kind of like let go of all the outcomes and results and just like see what happens. And it was like, that was the mindset that I went into these last few events with, and it ended up working out pretty good.
Sure.
So I feel like that was kind of like the shift in my mindset this year that helped me get to where I am.
Absolutely. By the way, we don't have to talk about this, but do you have any thoughts on the WSL controversy, or not really? With the
Like
I mean,
with
with the judging.
with what?
So yeah, I mean, for people that aren't familiar, like basically, the world, the International Surfing League, basically there was a scandal over like basically how the judges were assessing scores. It was basically got to the point where people were getting death threats. There was like all sorts of like conspiracies about it being rigged, that sort of thing. Like, I'm just curious to know, like, did you follow that controversy? Like, do you feel like sort of it's reflected poorly on pro surfing, or do you have any opinion about that at all?
I honestly didn't really follow that much. And like personally, I feel like I never really noticed it too much. So I guess
Sure.
that I probably don't really have the best opinion on that.
No, that's fine.
Hey, Stay Classy listeners, Steve here, and we have a new friend of the show I can't wait to share with you. None other than Legendary Group, San Diego's premier nightlife company that specializes in making your nights unforgettable.
If you haven't heard already, they are the go-to source for connecting you to the best events in the city and handling all of your VIP needs. To access the very best of San Diego, visit www.legendarygroup.com. That's www.lgndrygroup.com for more information.
As far as surfing in general, I mean, for people who like aren't familiar with like the art of professional surfing, like talk to us a bit like through it, like, you know, talk to me like I'm 5, like, you know, if there's like a way to explain how a surfing competitor is assessed against each other, like what are like the criteria that have to be met, and like sort of explain that like as objectively as you can.
Yeah, it's definitely like a tricky thing to explain, but pretty much the way that we're judged or scored is based on how we surf our waves and the different maneuvers we do, the flow that you have between your maneuvers, the like level of difficulty, and trying to think if there's anything else, but I feel like that's kind of like the main points.
Is
And
it
then
like,
the
is it more, yeah, go ahead.
that they have is like they always say like speed, power, and flow. So like the speed that you have in and out of your maneuvers, the power that you hold like with using your legs and your body to like throw water, and then like the flow between maneuvers. So like all of those things kind of, I guess, are combined together.
Is the difficulty of the wave itself like part of the equation, or do they don't really care like when they're assessing like a score?
Yeah, I would say like the quality of the wave sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you're surfing out at somewhere like Jeffreys Bay, let's
Sure.
say. And the person waiting for like the biggest and best waves is probably going to end up with bigger scores if they surf their waves well. And then if you're going on like smaller, not so great waves, then your scores are probably going to reflect that. So that's also another like, I guess, part of the criteria too. But yeah, it's like the ocean's always changing, and like the waves aren't always going to be the same. Like every wave is pretty much different. So that's another thing too. It's like the variables of it being constantly changing and not just like a stable sort of like field or course that you have to run is also like something that makes surfing so unique and also really hard to explain.
Sure. No, I mean, the ocean's an unpredictable place. Like, I know fully well. I mean, have you ever had a shark eat your surfboard, or?
No, luckily I've had no shark encounters.
Okay, well, that's fortunate. But I did want to talk a little bit about the Olympics. You know, so, you know, Olympics, next Summer Games are in 2024. The research I did indicated that you sort of have your eyes set on 2028. Is that right? Or
Yes,
okay,
because
so go
the
ahead.
qualification for 2024 happened last year. And for the US, the only path for us to get to the Olympics is through the World Tour. So for 2024, you had to be on like last year's 2023 World Tour. So that puts me like out of qualification for this year. But
Gotcha.
2028 is like the next
goal.
time that I have a chance.
Damn, shit, I'm gonna be old by then. But well, I mean, so for 2028, like, how do you? Where's that gonna be? That's gonna be in Los Angeles, right? So where, like, how do you sort of prepare yourself? Like, are you preparing now? Is it like sort of the thing where, you know, you just kind of keep doing what you're doing, or like, how do you sort of set your sights on that goal?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing now. We don't even know exactly where the location of the competition will be for Los Angeles. It could be at Huntington Beach, it could be at Lower Trestles, it could be in a wave pool for all we know. So until we really know like exactly where it's at, you can't really start like specifically training for that place.
Sure.
But first thing to do is to make sure that I'm still on the world tour at that time. So that's like
priority
my
number
one goal, is to have like longevity on the tour. So to kind of just keep doing what I'm doing and have my goals set on staying on the tour for many years.
Absolutely. Well, surfing wasn't even an Olympic event for a long time. I mean, it wasn't until the Tokyo Olympics last cycle that we actually saw pro surfing taken to the Olympic level. So, talk to me a bit about what you think in terms of surfing reaching the echelon of, being considered on the main stage of other sports like that. I mean, like that's got to be a pretty big deal in the surfing world, right? Like, I mean, like for it to get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that surfing has come so far, and that it's cool that they found a way to have surfing be a part of the Olympics, because I know it's not an easy thing to have to, have a certain amount of like a waiting period for them to decide like which days they want to run and all of those things. Definitely makes it a little bit more of a challenge to run surfing during the Olympics, because it can't really be like a set schedule. But it is super exciting to, have it a part of that and just be able to have the opportunity to win Olympic medals in our sport is pretty cool. Like, I feel like 10 years ago, we would have never thought that that was happening. But now that we have that, it's like a cool opportunity and like definitely just like such a prestigious thing to win.
What would, like, in terms of representing your country, I mean, what would winning like gold in Los Angeles like mean to you personally?
That would be amazing. Like, complete dream come true. To do it in the US while representing the US would be like incredible. And I think just that part of it too, like representing your country in the Olympics is such an honor, and just like it's what everyone in sports dreams of, I feel like. So that would be definitely pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think you will. But I wanted to also ask you, I mean, in terms of like the Olympics, like this cycle around, like talk to me a little bit about like, you know, you talked to me about your influences, sort of some of the people that have like driven you, but who are maybe some of the other surfers in the sport, like for people who don't follow it as closely, like sort of some of the other surfers in the sport, some of the other people who are going to be competing even this year's Olympics or next year's Olympics, excuse me. Some of the other women that you sort of look up to, like that you sort of respect in that field, like talk about like their accomplishments as well.
Yeah, the two women that are going for the Olympics this year are Carissa Moore and Caitlin Simmers.
Okay.
And Carissa is a 5-time world champion. And she also won the gold medal in Tokyo. So she is, I would say, one of the like greatest of all times of our sport. And yeah, she's amazing. She's from Hawaii, and she's definitely one of the girls that I've looked up to for my whole life. And then Caitlin Simmers, she is super young. She's 18, I'm pretty sure. And this is her first year on the world tour, and she ended up finishing in the top 5. So that ended up booking her a spot to the Olympics as well. And I'm super excited to watch her surf in the Olympics, because it's in Tahiti this year at Chopu, which is a big left barrel. And she has an amazing backside barrel riding. And I think that she's going to do great there and has a good chance of winning a gold medal. So it's a really exciting team that we have for USA.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about like in terms of places to surf, like since we are a San Diego show, you're from the San Diego area. Tell me a little bit about like just like on a personal level, like some of the places you grew up surfing, some of your favorite spots, and like sort of the community of surfing in San Diego.
We grew up all surfing this wave called Seaside Reef, and that's kind of where I feel like I surfed every day from when I was super young. Even now when I go home, that's where we go to surf every day, and it just always has super consistent waves. All your friends are always there, so you always got someone to surf with. And yeah, just our surf community that we've built down there is amazing. And we have like our board riders club now, and just everyone there has always been super supportive of what I'm doing. And I feel like a big part of the reason why I'm so successful is just having that love and support from your community at home really just means a lot. And yeah, we've had some amazing surfers come out of our region, so it's pretty cool to kind of carry on that legacy, I guess. And this year we actually have me and Jake Marshall, who qualified onto the world tour, and he's another one of my friends from Encinitas that I grew up surfing with. So it's really special to just even have that community like on the road too.
Do you think San Diego is the best place in California to surf?
I think so. But I might be biased.
What about in America? Where's the best place to surf? Is it San Diego?
I don't know. I mean, I would say that we have some of the best waves in California, but
we do. It's pretty special.
I also haven't explored too much up north, but we'll just say that San Diego's
the best, yeah. Well, I think what's the Beach Boys song about Surfing USA? Yeah, they reference La Jolla, and that's actually where I learned how to surf, was in La Jolla. And I mean, I know it's not the most challenging of places for someone at your level, but I think that there's always been a strong surfing culture in San Diego, and I feel like it's getting recognition, which is cool to see over time, is that people are beginning to recognize this as sort of a hub of, surfing and sort of beach culture, fitness culture, and that's kind of been cool to see evolve. But for outside of the surfing world, like, tell us a little bit about like who you are. I mean, like, you talked about your upbringing, you talked about like sort of how you got into surfing, but like, tell us a bit about like yourself apart from surfing, apart from what you do, which I know is difficult, but like who are you outside of the sport, and like the sort of like your other aspirations, and where you're at in life.
Yeah, I mean, surfing is definitely like the biggest part of my life, and everything obviously for me revolves around surfing and the ocean and all of that. But um, I really enjoy traveling as well, which is what I get to do for my job. And I really enjoy like making connections around the world and just meeting new people, and kind of like trying to plant all my little seeds around the world with new friends and all of those sorts of things. And I also really enjoy doing like volunteer work and helping people like when I'm around the world, and just like serving people in different communities and things like that. I've had some really cool opportunities to do some things around the world. This year in South Africa, I was able to meet up with like a local church there and take some of the kids surfing, which they have an amazing program there where they like try to get the kids off the street and open up the church as a place for them to come and to go surfing and skating. And it was just really amazing to like spend time with those kids and hear their stories and just see how happy they were just to get in the water. And like I feel like doing things like that really just definitely like grounds me and makes me feel so grateful for what I get to do, because there's definitely a lot of other people out there who don't have that same opportunity to even just travel outside of where they live. So definitely try to do things like that often to remind myself, that it's pretty cool what I get to do and that I'm very lucky.
Is surfing like taking off in South Africa, or has it like always been kind of big there, or is it like kind of more recently developing?
There's a lot of people that surf there. It seemed like a big surf community, especially places like near the coast.
Do you aside from America, I mean, like, I know there's like Brazil, but like what are some of the other like places that, in terms of like the competition, like the Olympics and stuff, like where are like the best surfers sort of like coming from, and like Like sort of, yeah, like what's the field of competition look like?
Yeah, there's, I mean, amazing surfers from all over the world, but I feel like in specifically like the women's side of surfing, Australia definitely has brought up some of the world's best surfers for the women. And this year, the girls that qualified alongside me, it was and the three girls from Australia. So it was all Australians and USA girls qualifying onto the tour this year. So I think that that's kind of like the two strongest areas that women surfers are coming out of. And
Sure.
then on the men's side, um, California definitely has brought out some of the strongest surfers this year. And I would say Brazil too. Brazil
Sure.
has some amazingly talented surfers coming out of there right now. And it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. California's great, isn't it? I love this place. Now I wanted to ask you, like, you touched on it in our conversation earlier about sort of like, you know, who you are apart from like surfing. You know, you talked about what you're doing in South Africa. And I've also, you know, done my research and I know a little bit about you. So talk a little bit about like the influence of your faith and like how that like sort of shapes your approach to surfing and life in general and like, you know, being a professional athlete.
Yeah, I've always had a really strong faith. My family all grew up like I was raised Christian and just going to church all the time, and I feel like that really just kind of rooted myself in faith, and I've always just taken that with me, you know, around the world during my travels. And I feel like it's just something that always grounds me and just brings me back to always trying to be humble and, you know, all of these things. And it's definitely something that has shaped me into who I am today. And also just, you know, relying on that when things get hard in competition and, you know, things aren't quite going my way, and just, you know, trying to trust the whole the whole big picture out of all of it, and always trying to like pull out, you know, the little moments to be grateful for. But yeah, that's definitely, I feel like, just kind of shaped me into who I am. And also just,
Absolutely.
you know, yeah, I feel like just a good way for me to come back and like stay grounded all the time with all of these amazing things happening, and
Yeah.
just, yeah, trying to like bring myself back and not let myself get too big.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can tell just from talking to you that you're a really humble person. I mean, is that like sort of a challenge in terms of like sort of just, you know, managing expectations for yourself and from other people, but focusing on like maintaining your love for the sport, you know, not letting it be about like, you know, what other people think or like what other, you know, expectations put on you, but just maintaining your love for the sport while you're doing it for the reasons that you're doing it. Um, that's got to be challenging. Like, I mean, I feel like for anybody at your level, like there's a certain tension there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sometimes it does get hard to like, you know, you're working so hard for this thing and this accomplishment that you want. And, you know, I've definitely felt it before where I felt like slightly burnt out, or just like sometimes I don't love surfing that much. And it's
Yeah.
like just trying to, you know, balance out life, I feel like, and really just make sure that I'm having fun with it at the end of the day. Like,
Hmm.
you know, if I'm not loving what I'm doing and having fun while doing it, then it's definitely gonna feel like work. So
Yeah.
it's like I a lot of times I don't feel like I'm working, but there are some times where I do feel burnt out, and, you know, like I need a break, and just, you know, I try to listen to myself during those times and give myself that grace to just have a little bit of time off here and there, just to like come back to really loving surfing and coming back to like the reason why I started doing it. So there are moments where you feel, you know, burnt out, or just those tough moments, but I
Yeah.
feel like I learned how to balance things a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's part of success, right? Is like, you know, some days you wake up and you just, you know, you don't feel it. You know, you don't feel the motivation, you don't feel the passion. but finding a way to push through that and say, hey, like this is my goal. And so I'm going to stay focused on that regardless of how I feel in the moment. Because, you can't let, your feelings and your emotions sort of dictate your life. You got to, pick something and then sort of steadily progress towards that regardless of how you feel in a particular moment. So it seems like you do a good job of managing those emotions. Now, I'm curious to know, like, in terms of what's next for you. I mean, we already talked about, the Olympics and stuff, but like for you, Alyssa, like what do you want, like your surfing? I mean, you're kind of headed in a direction where, I mean, I don't want to jinx you, but it looks like you're going to be really a world-renowned surfer for years to come. And I want to know, like, what you sort of want people to know you by, what you sort of want people to remember you by, like your legacy as a surfer, as a human being. Like, what does that look like to you?
I mean, I guess that I just want to inspire other people to like chase after their dreams. And, I feel like just even my story so far is like, if you have that like dream in your heart and you're willing to like put in the work and persevere like through the hard times, like the road isn't always going to be easy to get there. So it's like if you can just push through and put in that work, like you will get there. And yeah, I think that that's just what I want people to know me by, is just inspiring others to like chase after their dreams, and also just to like be a loving and kind person all the time. And yeah.
Awesome. What by the way, like what so you're in Hawaii right now, right? Or Brazil? Hawaii.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
where are you moving around next? Like what's the next few months look like to you?
The next few months I'm going to be planted here in Hawaii and just training and surfing and getting ready for the new year to start. Our first events are end of January, so my plan is just to be here until Christmas, go home and spend some time with my family during the holidays, and then fly back out here to get ready for those events.
Awesome. If people want to like keep up with you, keep up with what you're doing, you have an Instagram, right? What's your like handle, or do you have like a somewhere where people can like keep track of what you're doing?
So yeah, my Instagram is Alyssa_Spencer1.
All right, there you go. Well, there you heard it. Well, Alyssa, we're running low on time, but I just want to say, like, honestly, like, this has been a great conversation, and thanks so much for what you're doing, not just in terms of, obviously you're very accomplished, but, you're representing San Diego well, you're representing our community well. You're really out there, kicking ass, you're taking names, and we love to see that. We love to see the fact that you're out here, like, pursuing your dream, you're living your dream, and it's a very San Diego thing, surfing at the level that you are. So we love to see that. We love to bring that kind of content onto the podcast. So thanks so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. That was super fun.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's a wrap.
This has been another recorded episode of Stay Classy San Diego with your host, Steve Wire. Thanks again to our sponsor, MaxLux Media at maxluxmedia.com. Check us out at stayclassypod.com or any of our social media outlets. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and everywhere else you get your podcast content. Please like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us continue bringing you important content that you're not going to see anywhere else. And thanks to all of our listeners for tuning into the show. See you next time. Stay classy, San Diego.